South African-born actress and producer Lesley-Ann Brandt is set to star as a lead character in the latest TV show, The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, which will premiere globally tomorrow. The release date for South Africa is still to be confirmed. Lesley-Ann joins us for more on this discussion. Lesley-Ann, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon, and also congratulations on your role as Pearl Thorne in The Walking Dead. Firstly, what drew you to this character, and how did you approach portraying a South African character in such a globally recognized franchise?
Well, thank you for having me. The character was originally written as French, actually, and when I auditioned, I asked them if they would look at options for just different accents. So I gave them a South African accent, I gave them a New Zealand accent where I lived for many years as well. And I think what an SA accent innately brought to the character was a kind of grit and a sort of matter-of-factness in how she approached this situation she found herself in. There's also, it's an accent that is very guttural at times too. The tongue placements are very different, and so it just gave a different feel. I think something they hadn't seen in the other tapes before. I didn't deny Gurira also studied in Cape Town, so she's being a Zimbabwean actress, she's very familiar with the accent and particularly the accent from the Cape Flat. So I felt like it just served me well, and they decided to make her South African.
Lesley, given the immense popularity and also the longevity of the Walking Dead series, how did you feel about joining this iconic universe, especially with your character being a significant addition in the spin-off series?
Look, I think I was very aware of how big it was, and I thought how exciting to, bring a little bit of home into this franchise that had been on air for, 12 years, I think. But also feeling an immense responsibility to the filmmakers and then also the fans. There's a reason the show has been on air for this long. And that starts with Andrew Lincoln, who is half South African, for those of you who didn't know as well. So he really set the tone with the show, and I just felt when I joined, I was welcomed with open arms, and I put my best foot forward. And we got to explore and just have a lot of fun.
So you mentioned a short while ago that you proposed the idea of giving Pearl Thorne a South African accent instead of the originally intended French accent. How do you believe this decision impacts the authenticity and representation of South African culture to the show?
I think, I remember at the premiere when I went, and I typically don't watch my work with a big room of people I don't really know, but I did watch it, and it got some laughs in moments where I didn't think it would end. We have that innate sense of humor that just comes out, as I said before, in a very matter-of-fact way, and it definitely injected a little bit of that. There's also there's a toughness and a grit, as I said before, and I think that comes from all the experiences we have as a people, as a nation, and as women, South African women. And a lot of people always think of me as being very tough and sort of being able to handle a lot. And I'd say that's the South African female experience, but there's also a deep vulnerability there, and I think that's what it gives this character. You immediately believe that she has been through a lot, and specifically coming from Cape Town and coming from the Cape Flats, that accent is so specific to that region of our country, I did try and get some slang in there, but, I'm baby steps with the Americans.
Which brings me to my next question, and also following from the thought you've just had right now. So as a native of Cape Town yourself, how did your personal experience and also a bit of your upbringing influence your portrayal of the character that is Pearl Thorne, particularly in capturing the nuances of Cape Town accent and mannerisms as well, like you just mentioned?
Well, you know, I got to name the character, which is also fun. The first name pulling from my friend Paul Tusi, who I love, and then the last name from someone I knew in high school. And I think having those very personal sort of attributes be part of the character too, it helped with the way I entered a room, you know, my South African upbringing. It helped with her posture, the cadence of how she spoke. And I will credit the filmmakers, particularly the showrunner, Scott Gimple, with allowing me to, one, change the name of the character, which was originally not very South African. It was a name that we wouldn't particularly name our children. But also the way South Africans would just get to the point, you know, of like, my husband often says, you know, it sounds so harsh sometimes. I say, just because we don't have time. We have things to do. We just get to the point of what we're trying to say. And I think that part of Pearl, she's very clipped. It could be interpreted as hardness, but there's also just focus and a drive. And I think for me personally, as someone who's lived outside of South Africa since 1999, I do credit my, you know, my sense of sort of direction, my ambition, my ability to withstand, my ability to, you know, be malleable as is needed in this business, and to my South African upbringing. I also credit my deep empathy to my South African upbringing, and that's what this character also has, an understanding of seeing someone in need and sort of reaching out. And I think that's probably just growing up, you know, what I did, seeing what I saw, and all of that is filtered through me as the person, and then ultimately through the characters I play. You know, there's always a little bit of home in every character I play, even if I don't sound like it.
So, as you know, the Walking Dead franchise often explores complex themes of survival, relationships, and even morality. So, Lesley, how does your character, Pearl Thorne, then fit into this narrative? And what unique perspectives does the character bring to this post-apocalyptic world?
Well, what we're exploring this time what the show is exploring for the first time is this militant arm of humanity called the CRM, and this, you know, the Civic Republic, which is the last hope for humanity, or so we think. And I think when we look at what's happening in the world today, the exploration of, you know, to what will we as human beings, what will we do in order to survive? You know, what will we sacrifice? Who will we sacrifice? And I think these are things that are obviously like very prevalent right now in the world. Also, this idea that in previous seasons, in early seasons, you know, the walkers, the zombies, they were the real threat. But in this season, it's really human beings. You know, it's us, and it explores a part of us as these creatures who we're so incredibly smart, you know, as a species, and then at the same time we will actively do things to destroy ourselves and our environments and each other. And I hope that, you know, I think this is the joy of doing something that is, you know, not set in real life, right? Or at least I hope zombies aren't real. But that we get to explore those very human themes in this like backdrop of fantasy, and I hope that it makes you wonder, because we are dealing with a very sort of fascist militant army, and what that does to people, what that does to a community, what that means for the world. So I hope that people sort of look at the deeper themes too, while also enjoying, makes the show fun.
I wanted to quickly crystallize that point. And lastly, with your character, Pearl Thorne, representing South Africa on a global stage, what message or even an impression do you hope that viewers will take away from this portrayal of the character on The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live?
Well, I think, without spoiling anything for the audience, I think she finds herself in a world where she simply wants to survive, and I think when we meet her, there's a part of her that she has had to leave behind. And what that can do to a person, be it South African, be it anyone, right? That believing in an idea isn't always the best idea. Believing in what you think is the greater good, you really have to take it back down to just like humanity and that one-on-one experience that we have. And yes, survival is important, but to what end? To what end? What are you prepared to do or not do? And these are the questions. So I guess I want the audience to see those survival instincts that I think we all have, and be proud to hear, a little bit of the accent. I definitely heard my father in a lot of when I would say the way I would say things. And then also just, I think for a bigger leave behind for me is, our country is so rich. We have so much to offer. There's so much talent out there. I really would love Hollywood to invest more in our entertainment back home and our entertainment industry. I'm so excited to see what is coming out of South Africa. I'm a huge fan of Spinners. I think Anthony James is like an exciting new talent for me, and I would love to, I'm hopefully going to be back in SA in this year to film a South African film with South African director and crew and cast, and it's something I'm producing as well. And so I just really look forward to doing more things back home too, because there's just so much more to us than our past, our history. I think I really would love to highlight the excellence that we have as a country.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time. That was actress Lesley-Ann Brandt telling us about her role on The Walking Dead, joining us from California this time.